Hey, so in this episode of the show, we are talking about those bad food choices that take you way off track, fuck up your calorie deficit, maybe even pushing you into a calorie surplus, and basically they are the block on your progress. They are the thing that's getting in your way consistently. Your inability to control your food choices to make sure that you are staying in a calorie deficit consistently. So I've made some notes right here about what I think are the things that are going on inside your brain that are kind of fucking things up. So some of this is going to be some tough love. I won't pull any punches on this one. I won't apologize for it either. So get ready. If you are this person who is feeling like you're making all these bad choices around food, or you're making bad nutritional choices and that's taking you way off track, then strap yourself in, because this could be some tough love. Now, first of all, I want to say that there are still no good or bad foods. Despite what I end up saying across the course of this episode, there are still no good or no bad foods. You shouldn't think of things as this particular food is good, i.e., for example, fruit, vegetables, whatever, and therefore like chocolate is bad. It creates a bad relationship with food, which is not going to serve you well in the long term, and actually probably is one of the contributing factors to why you're making poor nutritional choices that are actually taking you out of your calorie deficit, because you get to this point where there's always over restriction, this thinking of foods as bad leads you to kind of build up this fucking pressure cooker inside your own brain, and then it goes, it explodes, and that just then leads you to think, okay, I'm just going to eat chocolate, and I'm going to eat chocolate and pizza and donuts and crisps and biscuits all fucking day, because you just tried to keep a lid on it for so long, but then bang, it all went to shit. So, having said that, there are situations where you can make bad choices. For example, a box of Krispy Kremes for lunch is a bad choice, because it's going to be probably very difficult for you to have a normal day of food outside of that and have a box of Krispy Kreme donuts in the middle. Yes, there are no good and bad foods, but there are stupid fucking choices. That's true. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe a little bit of a myth that is rolling around in your head, is this one of food addiction. Particularly when people say, I'm addicted to sugar, I'm craving sugar. Trust me, you are not fucking craving sugar. If you were craving sugar, you would get a box of Tate & Lyle, silver spoon, raw sugar, and you'd fucking snort it like it was fucking cocaine, because that's what addiction would be. You are compelled to eat sugar, but no one, absolutely no one, is getting spoonfuls of raw sugar, because if you are actually addicted to sugar itself, you'd go to the source where you got just sugar. You'd get that absolute sugar hit in one form, but you are not addicted to sugar. You're not even addicted to food. What you're enjoying is food that tastes fucking good. That's it. It's not anything else. It's just you enjoy food that tastes fucking good. And rarely is it just sugar alone. Most of the time, whether it is ice cream, whether it is pizza, donuts, biscuits, it is this combination of generally refined sugars and fat. Those two things smashed together is like heaven sent for your brain in terms of this tastes fucking good and I want a lot of it. So it becomes very, very easy because it's highly palatable. It tastes good. It's very, very easy to eat a lot of it in one go. It's very easy for you to sit there with a tub of Ben & Jerry's, sit back in front of Bridget Jones in your fucking pajamas, taking spoonfuls of this stuff. And then it's rare. It's rare that you can put that spoon down and put that tub of ice cream back in the freezer. Most of the time, it's fucking gone. You've obliterated the whole fucking thing. Not because it was sugar, but because it was this blend of sugar, of fat, that you just fucking enjoyed. That's where it is. You are not addicted to foods. You are not addicted to these things. They're just highly palatable, which makes it easy to eat more of them. And once you enjoy the taste of it, then maybe you think like when you get to a certain period of the day, or maybe you haven't had a piece of chocolate for a week or something like that, you start to think about, oh yeah, I remember what chocolate tastes like. It tastes fucking good and I want it. And then you're going to have a lot of it once you fucking have it. So that's the key thing. They're the two key things, is you're not addicted to food, and there is no good and bad, but there are shit choices. That's kind of where we're at with this. Now, how are we going to sort this out? That's the key thing. So Simon, you've already fucking berated me for, food addiction and all this sort of shit, but actually trying to help me out. Okay, I am going to help you out right now. So let's go strip back to the basics and start with our old favorite, calories. Yes, calories. Now, if your calories are too low, you're going to struggle with fucking hunger. And if you struggle with hunger, you are more likely to make some shit choices, because there's only so much willpower that you have that you can keep prolonging not eating those foods that you feel like you're craving or you feel like you want, because you've run the calories too low, and therefore hunger is building, and therefore it's just a matter of time before shit explodes again. And also this kind of like banning of foods. This is bad food. This is shit food. I can't have this. Again, this is like this time bomb, this pressure cooker that's building up. And because you're on low calories, let's say, for example, you're one of these crazy people that said, I'm going to diet on 1,000 calories. First of all, you're probably not on a fucking 1,000 calories, that's for sure. But let's say you are on 1,000 calories. Now, you haven't got much room to incorporate foods that are slightly more calorie dense and maybe nutrient light. So for example, like your chocolates, your biscuits, your donuts, all that sort of thing that you class maybe as bad, I would class as more calorie dense. Now, if you are having 1,000 calories a day, really to be nutritious, you're really going to use up that 1,000 calories a day on that nutritious food. Now, it's not going to leave you any room then, no wiggle room to then go and have a piece of chocolate if you want it, to have a slice of cake if you want it, to have a slice of pizza if it's controlled and fits within your calories if you want it. You've really not got that wiggle room. So it kind of gives you this really fixed, rigid way of dieting. And again, fixed, rigid ways of dieting are never fucking good. Much more easier if you can be flexible with those food choices. The next thing you might want to then do is, aside from increasing your calories to a more manageable level, then the thing is, you got to then look at maybe other things like protein. So protein is one of the most filling food groups that there is. So the higher the protein, the more full you'll feel. The more full you'll feel, the less likely you are to have hunger. If you haven't got hunger, you're not really going to quote unquote crave certain foods and therefore start to make poor food choices. So this is going to help you in the long term do those sorts of things. The other thing would be sleep. Now, I bang on about sleep all the fucking time. I am the world's worst for sleep. So this is do as I say, not as I do. But sleep is super important, because if you don't get enough sleep, then there is a high risk that your hunger hormones are going to increase the following day because of sleep deprivation. And again, we're coming back to this vicious cycle. If your hunger hormones are increasing, guess what? You are more likely to make shit food choices. And there is research to show that if your sleep deprivation is quite high and significant, then you have this like reduced inhibition around food choices. You will constantly and consistently and consciously make poor food choices, even though you know it's a shit choice. Even though you know that 12 donuts at lunch is not going to be conducive to sticking to your calorie deficit. If you are sleep deprived, you are more likely to say, fuck that, Simon. I don't give a fucking shit. I'm tired and I fucking want these 12 donuts. So I'm going to have these 12 donuts and then I'm going to cry to you about it afterwards. Now, okay, if that's what you want to do, go do it. But don't come crying to me. Now, the next thing is about food choices. Now, we've already talked about palatable foods. We've already talked about those being like really easy to overconsume. So the logical thing was to say, do the opposite of that. That's not to say you can't have those palatable foods, but opt for things that are going to be highly nutritious, that are going to fill you up, that are going to be less palatable, less variety. It might sound a little bit shit and a little bit restrictive, but trust me, if the majority of your diet is fairly limited in terms of the actual variety of tastes and things like that, then when you have incorporated in some of those more indulgent foods, it's much more manageable to do it, and you are less likely to go off the fucking rails, trust me. Now, if you want to, build in those more indulgent foods in controlled quantities and do it at the point where you are feeling good, where willpower is strong, you're feeling motivated and you feel like you can control it. Not at the point where you're at your lowest ebb and you feel like, if I have this chocolate or I have this ice cream, I'm going to be fucking drowning in misery in a few moments time. That would be a key thing. The other thing is to say, well, if you are one of these people who, and these do exist, where you have zero control, there's certain foods that really just trigger you and just send you off the rails, and you can't, all bets are off. You can't control yourself around them. For me, it's ice cream. If I open a tub of ice cream, it's gone. I have to think about having that within my calorie requirement. So if I'm going to eat ice cream, I'm eating the whole fucking tub. And I know that. So I plan for that. And if you are a person who can't control certain foods, then remove them from your food environment. Remove them. You are in control. You are a fucking adult. If you are listening to this, you control what you buy. At some point, you have to take responsibility for the food choices that you make. At some point, you have to kind of take ownership of what you are doing with your life. For example, you could say, well, in terms of your finances, you are in control of your bank account. You wouldn't allow yourself to go heavily into debt. Well, you might do, I don't know. But you kind of really would take control of your finances. Make sure your bills are paid. Make sure you're not overspending and things like that. You're an adult. You make these fucking decisions. And it's the same with your food. You are an adult. You are in full control of what you buy. At some point, you have got to take ownership of what you buy. You've got to take ownership of what you put in your mouth. I've said on a number of different podcasts, for example, to all these different strategies for you to reduce the amount of cravings that you have, to increase your feelings of fullness, to make sure that your calorie deficit is not too aggressive, to make sure that you're making consistent progress. Now, it's up to you as an adult whether you actually listen to that information, take that on board and apply it. Okay, you're not going to be perfect 100% of the time, but 85% of the time, if you're consistent and moving forward, you will make progress. So that was a bit of a rant, I realized, but as I said, some of this is tough love. Now, what I would say is don't set yourself false expectations, because this is where like fuck it mode comes in. Because if you have this expectation that you are going to say, I'm going to lose 2 kilos a week and I'm going to shed, 55 kilos within 4 weeks. And then when that doesn't start to fucking happen, then you think you're doing something wrong. Then you think that this process isn't worth it. And then you drift into that fuck it mode. What's the fucking point? I'm just going to go and eat what the fuck I want because this makes no difference. So what you need to think about is saying, what is a realistic expectation for me? What is my calorie deficit? What should I expect in terms of how much progress I'm making if I stick to that? And therefore it becomes much more logical because you're going to make smaller, quicker wins that are going to give you more motivation, rather than you setting this stupid fucking target that's way too high that you start to fall foul of each and every week. And therefore that creates this kind of, I don't really know why I'm doing this shit, it doesn't really work for me type of attitude. The next one you need to do is get your relationship right with food before you diet. If you're in a situation where you are consistently binging, you can't control your food choices, you can't control the foods that you're putting in your mouth, you have a poor relationship with food. Cut and dried. You should not be dieting. That's my personal view, is that you should not be specifically counting calories, all of this sort of stuff, MyFitnessPal, all of that sort of shit. You really need to take a step back and control your relationship with food. I would literally just start with some habits. Think about increasing the more nutritious foods into your diet and try to limit the amount of more indulgent food that you have, and controlling your relationship with food before you then start to go into trying to lose weight specifically, trying to manage calories, and adding that extra level of pressure on yourself. Get the mental side of things right first before you start dieting. Then, like I've said before, I went off on a bit of a rant, but I'm going to repeat it now. Consider the fact that at some point you are going to have to take ownership of your decisions. You decide what you buy. You decide what you put in your mouth. I know it's difficult. When I go into a fat loss phase, I get hungry too. I get to the point where I really want to break my diet. I really want to go into the fridge and devour a fuck ton of food. But I don't, because I put into place some of these strategies that I'm talking to you right now about. So for example, the biggest one for me is food environment. So I get to the stage where I really want to eat some more fucking food. I really want something more indulgent, but I just don't buy it. I just don't have it in the house. Now, you might not be in the same situation as me, and that might be completely impossible. Maybe you've got kids and you've got this fucking treat drawer and things like that. And okay, you're going to have to find some other strategy, some other way around it. Use some of the other tools that I'm giving you here, but I'm just giving you one example. Now, if it's not in the house, I can't fucking eat it. Yes, I could go to the shops, but that's fucking effort, and I'm not going to do that. So it's again about finding these strategies that work. Remember, is that I'm giving you all this information so that you can try it. You can work with it. There's so many different options I've given you in this one podcast that you could take, you could apply. You don't have to apply them all because they might not all be relevant to you, but some of them will. All you've got to do is try them. If you don't try them, if you just listen to this podcast and say, yeah, oh, that was a good piece of information. That was a good piece of information. Where's the fucking donuts? If that's what's going on, then again, take ownership of your decisions. You can change your life. You can change the path that you are going down if you really, really want to. You're the one that's going to have to do it. Even if I was coaching you, there's only so many things that I can do. I haven't really offered this service yet, but be a live-in fucking coach where I just sit and manage your meals and follow you around all fucking day, making sure you do what I say. That's not a level of service I've offered yet, but for the right price, I would do. Now, so again, take control, take responsibility, apply stuff, try stuff. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be this robot who does the same thing every fucking day. It's just not possible. But do your best and take control. And remember, you don't have to work in finite 24-hour periods. So yes, you might have a few more indulgent food choices one day, but don't let that take you off track for the rest of the week. For example, if you have a bit of cake or something like that and you're 500-600 calories over where you want it to be, okay, right, 500-600 calories over, I could go 100 calories under my target deficit for the next 6 days and I will be back on track. 100 calories is fucking nothing. 100 calories is like a medium-sized piece of fruit per day. It's nothing. You can pull this back. You can get back on track. It's not a huge issue. Don't let it sort of affect your mindset so that you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of going way, way off track. Bear that in mind. So, quick summary for you on this one. First of all, there are no good or bad foods, but there are poor food choices. Now, also, you're not addicted to foods. You're not addicted to sugar for a start. But what you want to do is strip everything back. Start with the basics. Where are your calories at? Are they too low? Are they too restrictive? Where do they need to be set in order for you to be able to stick to them on a consistent basis? Find that point and run with it. Then look at protein. It's going to help you feel fuller, so make sure you're getting enough of it. Sleep, don't overlook it. Make sure you're getting enough. If you are sleep deprived, you are more likely to make some shit food choices. Then look at your food choices themselves. Try to reduce the amount of highly palatable, great tasting foods that you have in your diet. Limit those to when you feel in control, your willpower is high and your motivation is strong. Rest of the time, stick to something that's a little bit more plain. Vegetables, fruit, dairy, meat, whatever. Stick to that in your diet most of the time. Then set some realistic expectations. If you are calculating your calorie deficit, you can work out what sort of progress you should be making. Don't set this sort of wild expectation that you're going to have a huge amount of progress in a very short space of time. It's just going to lead you to think, what's the fucking point? Then start to think about your relationship with food. If your relationship with food is bad right now, don't diet. Again, think about the long term. Think about what's right for you in the long term, not this short term fix that you're after. And then finally, consider the fact that you have to take ownership of your decisions. You are the one in fucking control of what you buy, what you eat, what you put in your fridge, what you put in your cupboards, and ultimately what you put in your fucking face. So take control at some point. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It was maybe a little bit more direct and a little bit more tough love than you're used to, but sometimes I feel like you fucking need it. We are on a good level right now. You've listened to enough of these podcasts. I know you have. I know you've binge listened to a lot of them. So I know that we're on a good relationship. I feel like I can talk to you a little bit more directly. So if you have enjoyed this episode, maybe you enjoyed the fact that I gave you a little bit of a slap round the face, and maybe that gave you a bit of a wake-up call. If it did, message me, Instagram at iron_paradise_fitness, and we'll have a little bit of a chat. DM me, tell me what you thought. Tell me if you thought that I was being a bit too harsh. Let's have a chat about that, my friend. And if you want more information on fat loss, building muscle, and to check out my online coaching program, then go to ironparadisefitness.com, and I will put a link to that in the notes somewhere around this particular episode. But for now, all I'm going to say is keep living the lean life, and I'll see you for the next episode of the show.